Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Grand Rounds. My name is Leslie Crichton, and I'll be chairing the session today while Tom Farden is having a well-earned rest somewhere near Aviemore, I think. As always, you can watch Grand Rounds live, or you can catch up on our YouTube channel, where you'll find most of the talks that have ever been done at Grand Rounds, or certainly within the last few years, which is a fantastic resource. So today I have the great pleasure of introducing my friend and colleague, Dr. Paul Fettes, who, as well as being a consultant anaesthetist in Tayside, has long been involved in supporting the ARCHIE Foundation. So today he's going to be telling us a bit about a new ARCHIE's challenge, and also a bit about what ARCHIE has done and will be doing in Tayside. So as always, you can ask him some questions yourself at the end, or if you would prefer to type into the chat, we'll read out any questions that go into the chat towards the end as well. So I will hand over to you, Paul.
Lovely, thank you, Leslie. And can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Lovely. Okay. And Leslie, can you see that screen now? Is that the first of the slides?
I can see the screen and it's in full screen mode.
Yeah, great. Okay. So so what I was going to do today was tell you a little bit about the original ARCHIE's Mountain Challenge and the book that we wrote about it, and then all the ARCHIEs in one day. And at the end, I'll give you a little update on what is happening with the ARCHIE Foundation in Tayside. So I'll start with the Mountain Challenge, go on a little bit to talk about the book, and then introduce this challenge, which I'd love all of you to get involved in, and then a little update about the ARCHIE Foundation. So the ARCHIE Foundation came to Tayside in early 2015, and we knew about this in 2014. And at this point, I'd just like to acknowledge my long-suffering wife, Heidi, my better half, because the idea for the initial challenge came to me on our wedding anniversary in 2014. So that's 27th of June. And we went for a no expenses spared camping weekend to celebrate our anniversary. And this was Ben Starav, or as some of you exercise geeks might like to think of it, Ben Strava. And while we were walking up this, rather than reflecting on what a great wife I had, I was thinking about how we could have, what sort of challenge we could have to introduce the ARCHIE Foundation and help sort of launch it in Tayside. There'd been talk about Land's End to John O'Groats cycle, for example. And while that is a great idea, it's not original. And I wanted to think of something that had a bit of wow factor and was original. And I'd long been thinking about the 1,000-meter mountains of Scotland, and why, although there's no feet on the map, we were still talking about 3,000 feet mountains. These are the 1,000-meter mountains of Scotland. And on that walk with Heidi, I was dreaming about these mountains and a challenge that we could do to link all of these together. And I not only thought about those mountains, but I bored her to tears with the excitement of it all during that walk. So by the time we'd got down, I had a sort of rough idea. I didn't know exactly what mountains it would be at that point, but I had a rough idea of, or pretty much exact idea of what I wanted to do to link them all and have a sort of man or human power relay all over all of them to raise money for the ARCHIE Foundation. So that was June. So in September that year, we had the first planning meeting, which had about 30 folk at it. And after much planning, which I won't bore you with, in June of that, or it was 31st of May that year, we started with a toe dip in the North Sea near Dingwall, and we were then piped on our way by Alison Geddes, who's a retired paediatric nurse. So we were filmed by the Adventure Show, and this gives you quite a good idea. So I'm hoping that this will show okay.
Right now, we're going east to Dingwall for something new and equally testing. Archie's Mountain Challenge is a relay event, and it sounds deceptively simple. Running up Scotland's metric Munros. That's 130 mountains over 1,000 metres. But that's not quite the whole picture. To qualify, they must have a drop of 100 metres on all sides. And just to really confuse everyone, 3 mountains that aren't technically Munros fall within this definition. There's just one more thing. To make it more of a challenge, the team are linking them by bike or kayak.
It's absolutely unique. It's never been done before, so yeah, that's what makes it a great adventure.
It's going to be complex, but I think the attraction is just to get involved in something huge. It might never be done again. It's a one-off.
It's a huge challenge, 130 mountains. If it all comes together smoothly, it'll be fantastic.
The challenge is the brainchild of Paul Fettes, an anaesthetist at Ninewells Hospital in Dundee. He wants to encourage more people into our hills and raise awareness of the plight of local sick children.
It's quite exciting, really. It's everything that I envisaged, which is really particularly exciting, and it's underway.
It starts with a symbolic dip of the toe in the North Sea, and that includes young Rabi, who's multitasking. He's both the challenge mascot and a GPS tracker. Rabi's a sociable creature, which is just as well, as he'll be passed from person to person. With over 50 folk involved, the logistics have been extremely complicated.
The intention is to complete the challenge within sort of two to 3 weeks. The total distance is about 1,400 kilometres and the total height climbed is nearly 88,000 metres, which is pretty much the equivalent of 10 Everests if you started at sea level. To make it fit in that time, they're planning to run as much of the daytime as possible into the night if the route suits and the timing suits. The handovers are going to be quite remote in some cases, so actually the planning logistics, getting the runners there to receive our baton and move onwards is quite tricky, and that takes a lot of effort and planning.
After 40 kilometres on the road, the riders arrive at the foot of Ben Wyvis to hand over Rabi for the run up the first mountain.
Is this the rabbit?
Yeah.
But this challenge isn't just for hardened athletes. On 2 of the 130 hills, they'll be joined by a group of walkers who are equally committed but also have youngsters in tow.
This is just an absolutely phenomenal challenge because I think there are 2 elements to it. There's the actual cycling and the running itself, but there's also the organisational thing. I mean, having to set up a challenge to try and get 40 folk up Ben Wyvis, 40 folk up Schiehallion, then also to cycle between all those hills and run up all the 4,000 feet hills in Scotland, it's absolutely massive. And I think when these guys get that done, and I've got every faith that they will, then I think they'll deserve their point.
It has been quite a lot of work. When Paul originally said, "Can you plan the route?" there was me thinking, I can easily plan a route in an evening or 2. But the time and effort that has to go into ensuring that a pair of runners at the right time on the right day, it has taken a lot of time.
The organisers probably couldn't have chosen a worse summer. This is the start of June, yet it's wet, very windy, and the summit of Ben Wyvis still has snow cover.
That was hard. We were last minute replacements, was asked to do it on Thursday. Somebody called off sick. So yes, so me and Claire stepped in.
Well done, Kirsty. Great, thank you very much, Barry. Have a good ride.
It was actually quite nice. Pretty blowy on the top, quite a lot of snow, but better than anticipated.
I've never run a Munro before. That was my first Munro that I've run, but that's enjoyable. I'll do that again. That's lovely.
Hey, Rory.
As soon as the runners are down from Ben Wyvis, the bikers are off again heading for Ben Jerrig and the next set of runners.
Good effort. That's a tough ride up that hill.
Yeah, into the wind.
Cheers. Ride out. Have fun. Stay in it, guys. Start easy.
It's not just the logistics of the challenge that has taken a lot of organising. The support is also vital to success.
So this is the camper van. It was donated by Paul's auntie, So this follows everybody round on the various legs, and it's always at the bottom of each hill, so that when you come off you know you've got warmth and sustenance.
While Barry and his son Rory take a well-earned break, runners Jason Hardy and Simon Crawley are having a tough time on the hill.
It's pretty boggy, pretty wet. A lot of it we were running through peat bogs and things, so it's pretty difficult to pick your path through there. And then it was snowing on the summit just to make it extra special for us.
But in spite of the wintry conditions, they've completed Ben Jerrig on schedule.
Last 200 metres was knee-deep snow. We were having to kick steps. It's 1st of June. It just seems bonkers. So I'm glad to be back down with some food.
Okay, well done. Well done.
2 down, 128 to go. And mascot Ravi's still on the move. We'll be back later in the programme to see how the relay team get on.
So there was mention there of feet and of Munros. So I wonder if any of you know who this guy is. So this is Sir Hugh Munro. This is a memorial to him up at Kirramuir. And it mentions here, he identified the 277 of the 284 Scottish peaks above 3,000 feet. There's now 282 Munros. So he was born, he listed them in 1891, described them in 1891, mountains over 3,000 feet, and there's currently 282 of those. So I came up with a statement, and it's written on the book. If Munro were alive today, he wouldn't come up with the Munros, he would come up with the Archies. If Munro were alive today, he wouldn't come up with the Munros, he would come up with the Archies. That's a pretty contentious statement, so how on earth can I justify that? Well, if you look at this map, there are no feet on the map. 3,000 feet is 914.4 meters. It doesn't count as a contour line or anything on this map. Feet are completely irrelevant to modern mapping. This is Anchelach here, and it has 2 Munros, which are these two here, Biddy and a Glass Thule at 1062 meters and Sgurfiona at 1060. But what about these other two here? Why are they not? They're both over 914 meters. Why are they not Munros? Well, it would be fairly obvious if you were on the hill that those are just kind of shoulders of the hill. They're not separate mountains. But at what point does a shoulder become a separate mountain? What sort of criteria can you use to separate different mountains and Munros, or for that matter, Archies? What is the separation criteria for Munros? Well, I looked into this and I was amazed to find that there are no clear criteria. If you think about what you might use, you might want to use a distance criteria. Although if you're on a big mountain plateau, it becomes obvious that that wouldn't work. And what you really want to do is have a separation of height. So you would think there would be a height separation for Munros, but there isn't, and there isn't a consistent separation criteria for Munros at all. And I think sometimes it's quite inconsistent. Now, Sir Hugh Munro described his mountains in 1891, and at that point, it's quite remarkable how close the height estimates for the summits were, but to measure the drops surrounding a mountain was considerably harder. So if we look at the Munros versus the Archies, Munros are 914.4 meters or above. There's 282 of them, although that has changed considerably over the years according to committees deciding these things, and there is no clear criteria. And basically it's down to opinion, and that can vary from where you look at the mountain from, and even weather conditions and clouds and things. The Archies are all over 1,000 meters. This is a very logical height. It's a vertical kilometer. It's a nice round number. And when Munro first described his collection, people were astonished. They thought there were only about 30 mountains in Scotland over 3,000 feet, so they were astonished to find that there were nearly 300. And I don't think the smaller number of 130 would have put him off at all. Archies have a 100-metre drop on all sides, or prominence. So there's a very clearly defined separation criteria for Archies, so it's not down to opinion. So arguably, the Archies kick the Munros into touch. Now, of course, I can't really say that because the Munros have done a huge amount of good for outdoors and mountains, and people going out to appreciate the outdoors for many years. But I just want you to think in those terms. So here's the Archie Mountains, and what we did was we started. They're all on the mainland, as you might notice, and we started with a toe dip in the North Sea by Ben Wyvis as our first mountain, and our last mountain was Ben Eames. So we started at the north end on the North Sea, and we crossed the country and finished with a toe dip in the Atlantic Ocean at the south end. And that was our route with our tracker. And by finishing by Benim, it meant we could finish at the Rest and Be Thankful, which was probably the best place that you could possibly finish such a challenge. And then we had a nice relaxing toe dip in the Atlantic Ocean and celebration. What we also had was a plan of 3 community walks, and this was the first one. This is Ben Wyvis, and as the adventure show alluded, the weather was maybe not atrocious, but it certainly wasn't very kind to us. And ironically, our third walk on Schiehallion wasn't a huge amount better, and the second walk up Loch Nagar actually had to be cancelled because of storm force winds. So although it was June, the weather wasn't always kind to us. Now, so I've mentioned 130 mountains over 1,000 feet, and this is here because that's something that the more outdoorsy and adventurous of you might want to consider as a bucket list, because climbing all the Munros is quite an effort within a modern lifestyle, and this is something that's a bit more achievable, and it's something you might want to consider if you're into climbing hills. So there's 130 of them, and this is the map which comes with the book, which has a sort of tick list of mountains on the side. I'm just going to show you another adventure show clip now to give you a bit more of a flavour for the challenge. The adventure show, they were only really filming for 2 or 3 days, but I think they gave a very good flavour of the event.
Now we rejoin the runners, bikers and kayakers who've been documenting their progress in Archie's Mountain Challenge. They're attempting to set a record for ascending Scotland's 130 peaks over 1,000 metres in one continuous relay, and they're enjoying every minute.
I'm having lots of fun climbing hills with new people in a completely different way. You know, we're covering the ground very quickly. 6 arches in a day would be very hard work to do if you were by yourself. You do it in small teams and you can make really fast progress. It's great.
The teams are now a third of the way through their challenge, with 46 summits successfully in the bag. Months of meticulous planning is paying off.
We've got about a 22-mile run through these mountains, finishing at the top of Cairngorm, where we're going to hand on the GPS tracker to the next group who are going to do the eastern Cairngorms, and then we're going to meet the next lot in Loch Nagar. We've got another about 70 archies to do, but hopefully we'll bag about 5 or 6 today. Good work, Ed. Good effort. How was it? Yeah, good. You look shattered.
We made really good progress until we sent you a text to say that we were making really good progress. Yeah. Right, here's Rabbi then.
Cheers.
Good luck, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Have a nice one.
It's now my responsibility.
I'll
clip him on.
Yeah, nice and safe. Top of the bag so you can see the sky.
I love hill running because it's like being 8 years old again. You run downhill without a care in the world. It increases the intensity of the mountain experience because you're pushing hard, you're running hard, and you're concentrating, and then suddenly you look up and you're in this spectacular environment. And doing a big long challenge, if you were to do that as a very small group of individuals, you'd have to take months off work. But this way we can drop in, drop out, and be part of it, and it's fantastic.
I only moved to Scotland about 10 years ago, and I had small children, and I've never got out much into the Highlands. So this is a great opportunity for me to come and experience the mountains. I got to meet new people. It's a safe way for me to come and enjoy fantastic countryside.
I think it's kind of reinvigorated my passion for going out in the hills again. And actually travelling light with less kit, running shoes, setting off early, you can totally be up a couple of hills and back down early in the morning, or even a late evening run up the hills. So I think that's something that's really kind of reinvigorated my my enjoyment of being out in the hills.
Yeah. Done.
Good fella.
Well done.
Well done, right.
Let's take the photo to prove it.
Yes, Archie selfie.
You ready?
Right, okay, Archie selfie. Compulsory, every single one. Okay, ready?
Okay, let's go.
The team are calling these peaks Archies. One more down, 69 still to go. Over the coming hours and days, the mascot Rabbie keeps on the move. It's a punishing schedule, but everything's going to plan.
The real hard part is the relentlessness of it, the fact that we're basically running or moving about 20 hours a day, so the tracker's only still for 3 or 4 hours in the day. So you know it's long days, and it wears you down obviously. So we're pretty tired.
Most days there's maybe 6 or 8 people available, but it's obviously a challenge that's going on over a number of weeks. So you know, some days there might be more people available at weekends, and then during the week maybe less people available to help out. But it's a big team, but on any individual day we're probably only using maybe 6 to 8 people for doing different legs.
So this is Mail at Tarnakin, high in the Ben Lawyers range. I think only about 6 to go until we actually finish.
It's really amazing how strong the team energy and vibe is, and I think the thing is, once you get involved early on, although you probably have to go back to work and things, you're really looking for when you can next get back involved, because it's that absorbing and you really want to be part of it once you're in it.
After just over 2 weeks, nearly 1,500 kilometres and 130 mountains to climb, it's almost over.
So here we are on the top of Ben More, just above Cranlarrick. It's Sunday the 14th of June, and here's Rabbie having a well-earned rest on the summit of the tree point. It's just gone 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's Rabbie's 3rd Archie of the day. Here comes Tayside GP Graham Gatherer, just summiting his 10th Archie of the expedition.
It's been a monumental effort, and as Rabbie heads towards the final summit, there's no shortage of well-wishers. Then it's one final push before the finish at Loch Fyne. And just for the record, the final time was 15 days, 9 hours and 6 minutes. And to stay in touch with this and all the latest Adventure Show news, follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, the Adventure Show does a really great job of filming that, and I think that gives a real flavour. Hopefully you recognise a few people there, including Grand Round Meister Tom Farden himself in his rather swanky outdoor gear. So this is us 15 days, 9 hours later at the Rest and Be Thankful. Just come down from Ben Eam, and we then descended gently to the shore for a toe dip in the sea there, and it was really nice to have friends and family around for that. having done that, it seemed important to write a book about it, to really put it to bed. So that book is now written and is freely available. And it tells the story, it sort of tells the logic for the 1,000-meter mountains, and it tells the story of the entire journey, overall 130 of them. And it does that in the words of the people that were there. Doing that and editing the book was rather a labour of love on top of a full-time job, and involved a lot of burning a candle at both ends. So I would often start, after putting kids to bed, start about 9 o'clock at night and realise at 1 or 2 in the morning that I had work the next day, and then go to bed and be unable to sleep because my head was buzzing and I was still thinking about mountains. I'd like to also thank this guy. So this is Mark Beaumont, and he wrote the foreword for the book, which was excellent. And he had particularly good timing because just as the book was being launched, he broke the round the world record, which was very thoughtful of him. So I mentioned that it was written in the words of the people that were there. So the people that you saw in the adventure show coverage, and these people here were basically all involved in writing bits of the book, which was great. So it was written in the words of the people that were there on the ground at the time. So there's lots of little stories of that, and the book is also littered with just beautiful photos of the Scottish outdoors. To the left of this photo is Ben Nevis, and this is last thing at night, looking across Carnmore Jerrig to Ben Nevis from Anach Moor. And this is Anchallach with ED consultant Russell Duncan, and this is former medical student Tim Gummersaw on the Black Mount. This is Kintail, and this is Kirsty Maguire and her cousin up somewhere north of Loch Morar. And this is us on a paddling leg in storm force conditions. So there were some amazing moments during the challenge. We did have some incredible weather, and we had some stormy weather, and we had sort of beautiful mountain highs and watery lows. And as I say, the book was written in the words of the people that were there. So that book is available in the Archie office and online if you're interested. I'd like to also thank Medical and Dental for their part in the initial challenge, but also enabling, along with a donation from a local supporter of the Archie Foundation, the publishing of that book. So the publishing costs were all covered, so that every penny that goes towards the cost of paying for the book goes to the Archie Foundation. So Medical and Dental and Miller Hendry have already signed up as sponsors of our new event, which is on top of Scotland, which is planned for the 4th of June this year. And what we would like to do is have someone on the top of every Archie on the 4th of June this year. So at least one person. It doesn't have to be one, it could be 100. If you do that, if you register for that, it costs £10. And for that, you get a free book. So it's quite a cost-effective way of getting the book in the first place. And the book comes with one of these maps, which is a sort of A3 glossy version, which was printed for us by provided for us by HarperCollins free of charge, which was very, very good of them. If you donate or raise more than £40, you'll also get an Archie t-shirt with all of the mountains in a sort of Scottish map style on the back. And I'm biased, but I think they're pretty cool. This is a sketch from one of our planning meetings, which depressingly shows how much hair I've lost from the top of my head, but it also demonstrates the 5 different areas of Archies. And basically, when you register, you can say which area that you want to do. So these are sort of, number 1 is the Southern Highlands, number 2 is the Cairngorm Mountains, 3 is the sort of Central Highlands round about Ben Nevis, 4 is Kintail, and 5 is the sort of Northwest Highlands. And basically you can choose to go up a certain mountain or mountains, or you can say I'm flexible within a region or even within the whole of Scotland. So if you want to go up a specific hill, then you're very welcome to do that. But if you are happy to be flexible and maybe go up a hill that no one else has signed up for, then that's also particularly useful. So yes, so the idea for this is to raise money for the ARCHIE Foundation, and all the proceeds will go to that, obviously. This is their new logo, hence the different font. And ARCHIE has been working with us since 2015. And the initial plan has been, or the initial fundraising has all been towards a twin children's theatre. The staff in Tayside Children's Hospital are great, and people make are what really make a health service, but only within, you also need bricks and mortar and a structure to work within. And the whole idea of the new children's twin theatre is that that can be a wonderful place for that to happen. And it's also right opposite Ward 29, and it means that we can have a sort of more cohesive children's Tayside Children's Hospital. So here's a little video about what's happening with the children's theatre suite at the moment.
My name's Grant Rodney. I'm a consultant children's anaesthetist, and I'm the lead for Children's Surgical Services and also the clinical lead for input to this wonderful project.
My name's Susanna Scott, but when I'm doing my drawing and my artwork, I work under the name Whimsical Lush. My role here is to kind of add to the already amazing space with some artwork.
It's now over 10 years since we first made contact with the ARCHIE Foundation to co-fund, along with NHS capital monies, the idea of building a twin operating theatre site for children and the accompanying ward spaces to meet all the surgical requirements for children in Tayside.
Well, there's going to be a hot air balloon, and that's really the key to the rest of the journey, so we can pretend we've hopped into this hot air balloon and we're floating down the corridor. And in the sky panels that were chosen by children, young people, staff, and the rest of the community, these sky panels feature things like hot air balloons, airplanes, and it's all about travel and journey and the sky, and there's elements of trees and nature coming in there as well, so it all ties in. So as we go through the suite, there's lots of doors with panels on them, so there's already illustrations kind of inlaid in the doors, so they also kind of helped me decide what was going to go where. And the two anaesthetic rooms in particular, the themes were chosen by children and young people, so we have a space room and we have an underwater room, which is completely different to the reception, so it's all about tying these together. But it's quite cool because we can go into these rooms and just experience a different world.
And that's been what's so fantastic, a link with the Archie Foundation, with a motto of making the difference. So what that link with Archie's allowed us to do is to expand what the NHS would rightly provide with taxpayers' money and to add that extra component to it, which is around the design, colour in the unit, and then also a wonderful link with one of our local artists, Suzanne Scott, who's creating some wonderful artwork for us to accompany children and families to this unit. An artwork and an environment that'll be exciting, fun, relaxing for children and families and also for staff.
So, as Grant mentioned there, the Tayside Children's Hospital has been embellished, if you like, by the provision of additional stuff with what the Archie Foundation has provided, and so it's really that the key thing is the NHS can rightly provide with taxpayers' money a standard, and Archie has added to that to make it basically more attractive and more kiddie friendly. We're very excited about the new children's theatres, although I'm trying not to be too excited because the date for opening has been delayed several times. It was, after some delays due to COVID, it was meant to be opening last August, and then it was October, and then it was December, and then it was February, then it was March, and now it's May, but we are hopeful it will open in May. And at that point, a much higher proportion of children will be able to be anaesthetised and looked after in the children's theatre suite, which is a much more kiddie-friendly place to look after kids, and we're very excited about the service that we'll be able to provide there. So that money's raised, and people are perhaps rightly asking, well, that's all very well, but that money's been raised, so what's Archie doing now? And what's the point in raising money for Archie when there's all these other, arguably more urgent funds needing done? And sure, I get that. Archie will be hopefully will have a very long-term relationship, and certainly an ongoing relationship with the Children's Tayside Hospital, and will hopefully over the years fund many projects to make a difference in Tayside. So the most recent announcement is that the Archie Child Bereavement Services is expanding to the Tayside area, and will be able to support bereaved children, young people and families across Tayside. Archie's also been ongoing in supporting families with sort of long-term sick children who may need, the families may need to take time off work and have increased costs of travel and these sorts of things. So there is a support fund for families, and there's an ongoing sort of search process for new, bigger, not quite as big as the Tayside Children's Theatre Suite, but bigger projects to fund as well. So there's going to be a sort of ongoing relationship, and I think that's really important. So that was really all I wanted to say about Archie, and it was really just to flag up that you can contribute by having a really grand day out on the 4th of June, getting a bit of fresh air and exercise, and raising some money for the Archie Foundation at the same point. So I'm very happy to take any questions, and I can explain further if anyone needs me to.
Thank you so much, Paul. And if anyone does have any questions for Paul, please feel free either to raise your hand or to unmute and ask it, or you can put questions in the chat box as well. Paul, I think you already alluded to it a bit, but I wondered, knowing how difficult it is to raise funds for things, how much of a challenge it is at the moment with so many different things going on in the world that could be asking for people to make donations, for people to get people to support this type of work. And you're obviously very successful at it. And I wondered if you have challenges with the conflicts there, or whether you don't see that as a massive problem for people.
It's a good question, and you could say surely it'd be better to fund vaccination or clean water in developing countries, and those are definitely very or obviously support people in the Ukraine or Afghanistan or Syria or all the other wars that have had perhaps less coverage. Yes, I mean, there's the thing is, you can tie yourself up in knots, can't you, with ethical dilemmas about these things. I suppose the point is basically, if someone enjoys going up a hill, then this might be something that you could do as a challenge, and it's not going to be a massive contribution. You know, to register is £10. If you want to do a bit of fundraising on top of it, that's fine, but you don't actually have to. I just see this as an opportunity of getting a bit of fresh air and exercise and giving a little bit of money to charity, which won't break the bank, but can make a difference. And certainly if you add it up between a whole pile of people, then it certainly would do. I'm not advocating it, meaning that you don't support other projects too, and that's absolutely fine. But you know, if people, for example, car shared to go up a mountain, then they'd probably save the amount of money to register for this in fuel on the way.
And people can support more than one thing as well, can't they? And what I love about this is that it sort of addresses two needs. It addresses the needs of us as a community to, having had a couple of rough years, get out and get some fresh air and do something for ourselves, as well as raising money for an extremely good cause. Does anyone else have anything that they want to ask Paul before we finish up?
Okay. Has anyone got any stupid questions? I'm quite happy to answer any questions.
Just words of congratulations from Grant.
Yeah, hats off to Paul, thank you.
Okay, well then it just leaves me to say thank you so much, Paul, who
there is a question here. Will you be required to run, or can you walk? Sorry, Leslie. The idea of this is that you can do anything you like. You could pick one hill, or you could go up several. I'm hoping that kids will go up, that there'll be family outings, that people will maybe use it as an opportunity to meet up with friends that they haven't seen for a while. You could take 12 hours to go up a hill, or you could, the fitter among you might want to run several or walk several. There's absolutely no requirement to be particularly athletic about it, and you can just have it as a nice day out. So no, you don't have to run. Walking fairly slowly would be fine. I'm hoping my septuagenarian grandmother, my septuagenarian mother is planning to go up one as part of it. So Charlotte likes that comment. That's good. How do you know which Archie needs to be summited? Will there be a list of those that are backed? So what we have at the moment is, Alison, thank you for asking that. When you sign up, you'll be sent a link to a second sign up where you can look at all the mountains and say which one you're going to go up. And then you can say within a region that you're happy to be flexible and go up, maybe be asked to go up another hill, or you can be happy to be flexible within Scotland. So of the people that are happy to be flexible, nearer the time we may contact. And I can also, I'm planning to let some groups know which hills haven't been covered so far. So far, for example, we've had about 130 sign-ups, and I've been rather surprised to find that the north of Scotland, the north and northwest, has been very well signed up, and actually the Southern Highlands, there's less sign-ups for, and also Kintail and the sort of Lagan area and round about the Nevis Hills. So all of the Cairngorms in the Northern Highlands are signed up, for example, so we can get back to you. Yep, Grant, you signed up, thank you. Sorry, Leslie, I interrupted.
Absolutely fine, it was to answer a question. Okay, I see no more questions. So I'm going to, well, first of all, going to say that Paul hasn't told you that he's locked at home with COVID. So it's particularly kind of him to come and talk to us today. And he doesn't look too washed out. He looks very well. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. As always, catch up on the YouTube channel if you've missed anything, and we will see you next week.